Sun Tzu is the author and philosopher, and he's best known for his work, The Art of War. And it's a very famous book, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this book. But one of the things that he warned about was going to war hastily. He says that a general must plan very carefully everything that's involved in a conflict. The more planning that this person does, the better chance of success. And you don't just hastily go into war. Wars are very costly. They're costly to the state, they're costly to the civilian population, and there's always retribution that happens afterwards. You know, the country that you're going to war with, and if you beat this country, if they survive in some form or another, or those people, the civilians, don't like being occupied, it's expensive to maintain that situation. So war is not something you want to jump into. War is something that you do when you have no choice and you have to go to war, and you plan every detail very carefully. It's not something that you do for political theater. So I talked about the Iran-Israeli conflict and the US getting involved, and I was warning about this, and I expressed my opinions when this situation was going on. And I said that it's not likely that the United States is going to be able to take out the Iranian nuclear program. I mean, you're advertising the locations you're going to strike. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to evacuate those sites. Yes, they caused damage, but they didn't totally destroy them. Probably the most devastating event with regard to the Iranian nuclear program was the Israeli assassinations of their scientists. Now, that is probably something that legitimately put them back. But the Iranian nuclear program has not been destroyed, and now it's well known. Again, this is something I've warned about, and a lot of people have warned about. But here we are. We now know it hasn't been destroyed. And I talked about in my last video that this was all done for political theater. Trump showed both strength and weakness. That the weakness is that he was bowing down to the Israeli lobby. And I think that that's, in hindsight, obviously very apparent that happened. But he wanted to show strength. He wanted to show brinksmanship. And he wanted to put pressure, I suppose, on China and Russia for negotiating purposes. This is all political theater. It's all posturing. It's the madman theory. It's the Richard Nixon madman theory doctrine of very willing to go to war, trigger finger type of thing where other leaders are scared off. But, like I said, this was done in part, at least in part, to bow down to the Israeli lobby. So in that sense, like I said, it shows weakness. But hopefully that the genie can be put back in the bottle. So I have an article here. And in this article, it shows the damage that has been done to Israel. Now, I am on principle a supporter of Israel. Israel is a prosperous, semi-free country, and that is significant. And that's why it should exist. However, in this article, it demonstrates the reason why you don't just go to war readily. Think about the long-term damage this is going to do to Israel. First of all, some of the Israeli leaders, were targeted for assassination. That's according to Iran. They hit a number of military targets and economic targets. Now, I'm not aware of the specifications of the military hardware on both sides. I assume that the Israeli military is more high-tech and more precise than Iran is. So I assume that I don't think Iran was hitting civilian targets. I think some of them were hit because of the missiles being just a little bit off course. Again, I don't know the details of this, but I would assume there's more damage to civilian infrastructure than there was to Iran. Obviously, there was damage to civilian infrastructure in Iran when Israel was trying to take out the Iranian leadership. But anyway, there's a very real sentiment. I'm willing to assume that a lot of people in Israel are probably really thinking about leaving Israel. They're looking at the situation. They see that the Iron Dome was not as much of a fail stop as they were told that it was, that the Iron Dome did not save them from all the missiles. Granted, it may have stopped, a number of them, but there was a number of missiles that went through that and hit a number of targets. And in this article, which I will link in the description below, shows you at least some of the damage that was caused. Hopefully, this conflict really does end. It seems to be simmering despite the ceasefire. But you don't just go to war. And this war is not productive. You're not going to change the regime in Iran. Like I said already, people are going to rally behind the regime because they're being attacked. They're going to see Israel and the United States as the enemy, not the regime in Tehran. If you want to change the regime in Tehran, you let the people do it. But I'm echoing the same words as a lot of people are. Unfortunately, the boomers in this country that watch Fox News and CNN, unfortunately, they don't know any better, and they're the ones that are kind of running the show right now. So I'm a millennial. Fortunately, I did not have to experience any wars, but I know people that have. I know friends of mine that were overseas, and they were complaining they didn't accomplish very much, and were being shot at, and and the trillions of dollars of waste. It's not worth it, unless you have a very clear objective in mind and you're willing to pursue it. This is a massive waste, is what it is.